Thanks for staying with us. You are listening to the DMZ America podcast. I'm Ted Rall coming to you from the left.
And I'm Scott Stantis coming to you from the right.
So in France, you've probably heard that there's political unrest. Nothing really new there. But what is going on is that this is a sustained movement that spans many class and age divides and has united the country against President Emmanuel Macron. He has proposed that the national retirement age be increased from 62 to 64. What that entails is a system of benefits that is far more extensive than Americans would be used to thinking about. In this country, basically, the main thing you're going to get as you retire is going to be Medicare and Social Security. Medicare you have to pay for a relatively low amount each month. Social Security, you get more if you wait to retire. The longer you wait, the more you get. But in France, aside from socialized medicine, as well as a generous Social Security retirement pension plan, you also get many other benefits. For example, they try to keep you in your house, even if you need home care that would normally land you in a nursing home in the US. They will have a home care attendant come to your house, cook your meals for you, do your laundry, clean the house, do your laundry, just all sorts of stuff. So you really can, if you're, over 62 in France, you really can enjoy your later years in total relaxation without worrying about, ending up sleeping outside or whatever. Unlike here in the US, where even though it's a problem that has gone away a lot since the 1970s when old people were eating Alpo for dinner, it is still possible to succumb to poverty if you haven't saved for retirement, or for whatever reason, maybe you retired too early or whatever. So I just want to say, good for the French. We should be standing firm here. And I think I want to point out, Scott, that there's a parallel to the current American political situation, where Biden and the Democrats appear to have identified the desire to keep Social Security and Medicare as they are, robust and public and not private, as issues that work for the Democrats going into 2024, because Biden specifically talked about that during his State of the Union address and he sort of trolled the Republicans during the address and sort of demanded that they agree with him that there should be no entitlement cuts. And then a couple of days ago, the president gave a speech where he demanded the same sort of thing and suggested a series of tax increases on Americans earning over $400,000 a year in order to shore up Medicare. But it clearly was a political thing, because he was calling out the quote unquote MAGA Republicans. He wasn't calling for bipartisanship. He was attacking the Republicans. And so, I mean, I think the Democrats think they've got a strong issue here. I wonder if they're watching what's going on in France. I think there's a lot to it, because it goes to what kind of society we live in or want to live in.
Right. When Social Security was started back in the early 30s, pardon me, the poverty rate of seniors in the United States was 75%. I mean, so if you want to look at a federal program and say one that works, this one, it works. Raising the age makes sense. When they made it 65, don't forget the average life expectancy of an American male in 1933, 34, whenever they did this, was 63 and a half years old. That was the life expectancy. It's now 77 and a half. It's coming back down, so maybe we'll get it back down to 63 and a half.
Yeah, because America is fucked. So,
but right now we're at 77 and a half. So raising the age makes sense. And of course, they've done it to you. They've done it to me. We're of a certain age where my retirement age is not 65. It's 66 and a half. Mm-hmm. People younger than me, it's even high. Is yours 66?
Mine's 67.
Okay. So, and that's going up, and as well it should. And I think in France, they're absurd. I mean, it's 63. 62 rather, they want to raise it to 64. I imagine their demographics are very similar to ours, and
they are.
But by that I mean they have a vastly a vast, large population that's aging, and a much smaller generation coming up behind them who has to pay for those
Now,
benefits.
the
That's where,
finances work differently in France. Like here in the US, basically younger people are, so basically people are told that they're investing through Social Security taxes into a trust fund that is then drawn upon, right? But in France, the young, whoever's currently working pays the system. And what President Macron is arguing is that because their baby boomers are currently retired and there's more of them coming online and more Gen Xers, that the smaller generation that's currently working just can't pay enough. The system's unworkable because of the ratio of the elderly to the young in France, with declining birth rates and so on.
right.
But I mean, basically, but the French are basically saying, fuck this. Like, we don't care. Like this is an important part of what it means to be French. And these are hard fought. This is something that we can all get behind. We don't want to be like the United States where they're taking benefits away, and let the corporations and the rich pay more, if need be.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you can say that, and I think here in the United States, yeah, you have to pay for the increase or the continuation, the health of Medicare, which is huge because my wife just got it, so it's really important. I think, I mean, this is where you and I are going to disagree vehemently, and what passes for vehement in our discussions because we never get that mad. But I think W was right when he tried to privatize 2% of Social Security and let the markets, and it also allowed individuals to build wealth, which Americans, for some reason, don't do at all.
Well, why that didn't work is because it didn't work because of workers' experience with their 401ks, where, oh, look, my 401k is doing better. It's doing better. It's doing better. Oh, it's all gone. Now it's doing better. It's doing better.
They were never all
gone.
It's obviously pegged to the stock market, but it also would have thrown $1 trillion into the economy to build and new companies and all the good things that come with putting money into economies.
And send weapons to Ukraine.
Well, there's that. That's that. But but with in terms of the tax increase for Medicare, yeah, I think that will go nowhere in the House with a Republican House, obviously. But it's something that you have to consider. And I mean, right now the trust funds are healthy, and both Medicare and Social Security are solvent. But in 10 years they won't be, because in 10 years people like Ted and I are.
Do they need to be solvent? I mean, first of all, I will say one thing. Maybe you can explain this to me, because I know you know this. Many of our listeners know this too. But there's the Social Security payroll tax only goes up to a certain amount. It's a highly regressive tax, right? If you make, like, say, $1 million a year, you are not in any way, shape, or form, you're basically not paying any Social Security tax. You're only paying it on the first 100,000.
Interrupt for just a minute. For those watching, this is our first posting on YouTube. That is Clovis the cat.
That's right.
You've heard him referred to before. He is omnipotent, and we must bow before him.
Always. And when he comes and requires attention, it is not to be ignored.
No. At the risk of being meow at.
That's right. Yeah, he's very affectionate right now, so I take advantage of that.
So the question was what? It was about paying for Social Security, paying for Medicare, payroll tax. Why it stops at 100,000?
So why don't we increase the payroll tax to? Because the idea originally was to get buy-in during the New Deal. FDR and the Democrats thought that they didn't want to make it class warfare. They wanted everyone to be involved. But I don't understand why, for example, Warren Buffett gets to collect Social Security at all. And there's all sorts of other issues. I don't understand why rich people who still have a huge income are collecting. I don't understand why rich people pay like the least Social Security taxes of anyone. I don't understand why why you don't, how much you get is how much you put in. So for example, if you went through long periods of unemployment, you're dinged for that because you didn't pay as much Social Security tax. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of things like that. My mother was a public school teacher in Ohio, and she never received Social Security because teachers were part of the pension system and they were exempt from Social Security tax. Now, she was a big saver. She grew up during World War II, so she put all that money away into an annuity. But for people who don't have that level of self-discipline or just can't afford to do it, it just seems to me like that's a dangerous system too. Shouldn't we just have a system where it's like everyone over X age gets this, unless they're rich, and everybody pays into it, especially the rich? Isn't that how this should work?
I think you can make it and that's obviously what President Biden is doing, is make to a lesser degree, but yeah, of course. I mean, that would be, I yes, yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. Well, that would be,
That,
I mean, of course, that's a liberal approach to this, right? I mean, or it would
well,
be.
yeah, I mean, I would agree that you could have that, but I would also encourage privatization to a very small degree and
But
allow,
what would privatization add to the equation exactly?
well, because what the W plan did, and it needed tweaking. There's no question about it. But what, if you remember, during the George W. Bush administration, he proposed privatizing 2 or 2.5% of Social Security, and that is that you would control 2.5% of it, and that's your money. I mean, that, when you die, you can leave that to your kids or to your cat or to your church or whatever you want to leave it.
Mhm.
And what it would do is you could invest it, and so it could grow, and it would give
But what
American
if you invest,
savings.
but you're presumably like our 401ks, like, you choose whatever, but most Americans they're not stock market experts. They don't know what to invest in, but whatever, they throw a dart at the chart and they invest in shit.
Right, I would
What about,
suspect, like,
what about the risk of stock market crashes, which are
well,
inevitable?
that's part of it. They are, given the boom and bust economic system we seem to be sliding into more and more. But the
It's
fact is,
capitalism.
boom, and in
Boom
terms
and
of,
bust is inherent to intrinsic to capitalism.
yeah, that's what more Marx said, that he saw that in the first half of the 1800s. Um, my point, though, is that Americans don't save for some weird reason. The average savings of someone who's retiring is $500. Did you know this?
There's nothing weird about it, Scott. I mean, first of all, think about like monetary policy. With interest rates the way they are. I mean, when I was a kid, I had a passbook savings account, which, by the way, I love passbook savings. I wish they would bring them back. You have that like physical thing where you can see your money getting better and you feel proud of yourself. I think it feeds your dopamine
Yeah,
receptors. It's
yeah.
a really good thing. I wish they would bring it back. When my kid was growing up, I tried to get him one. They don't do it anymore. It's really annoying. There might be some obscure credit union that does it, but it's basically big banks don't do it anymore. But the interest rate went from 5%, which was pretty good, up to 9% in the late 70s on passbook savings. Now you are lucky to get 1%. So they've disincentivized savings. Basically, it's like there's no reward at all for saving. Now, if you want Americans to save, you've got to have some inflation, and you've got to have some,
Yeah.
and you've got to make the interest rates higher. That could come from government regulation. I mean, we have a huge split right now. I mean, if you think about it, it's obscene. Banks are paying 0.4% on savings accounts at the same time that those same exact banks are issuing credit cards that charge as much as 29% for. So I mean, effectively, I mean, this is a completely ridiculous. It's not really, this is a very highly simplified way to look at it, but effectively they are making 29% profit on this kind of revenue. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, there should be a much narrower spread there. I mean, it should be like 8% payout on savings accounts, 15 or 14% maximum credit card rates. And then the bank gets that 6% spread, and that the banks are running wild. They're running the entire country.
Always have, though. But
yeah, but it's gotten really worse. It's like we're at one of those points where the system is breaking. It is completely crazy. But anyway, it's not that Americans are assholes and that's why they're not saving. They're not saving because their real income is declining. Savings are disincentivized. The only way that a middle-class American or working class American can accrue any wealth in any meaningful way is through real estate. That's it. You can buy, if you buy a well-placed house and sit on it, there's a strong chance you'll come out of it and make some real money. That's it. There, you taking that money and putting into a savings account is stupid. You should save your money and put it into a house.
Well, but as interest rates, and you point out, as interest rates go up, and I think they're what now today, 7.5%.
Well, you mean like the Fed? Yeah, the Fed funds rate
for a mortgage rate.
Yeah, mortgage rates.
They, and Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, has said they're going to be more and more aggressive with this stuff, which, by the way, doesn't fucking work. But that's another point, another discussion altogether.
Yes.
That's going to raise interest rates and saving interest rates. I think the rate
savings interest rates are still rock bottom. I mean, the banks.
I thought some were 2%. If I wasn't, I mean, that's still not like.
No, great. You're right.
Well, it's better.
You're right. There's been some movement there. But again, think about it. I mean, mortgage rates have gone from 3.5% to 8%, right? So that's 4.5% increase. Seriously, there's no reason why savings rates shouldn't have gone up by 4.5%. And I'm saying that because I used to be a banker. That's how this works. It's not like it's not like these things are not attached to each other. They should be attached to each other exactly. And so it's like, having worked in banking for 5 years, it's like, I'm just telling you, it's bullshit. They're not paying what they should be paying.
Well, on that note.
All right. On that note. So yeah, we've got to get you've got obligations, things to do. So we'll come back and talk about the defamation case of the century. And that is the case of the voting machine company that is suing Fox News for over $1 billion. Stay tuned.